Wow, wow, what a sad life you've led. If it's the greatest moment in your career, I'm very honoured, thank you, and I'm fine. I'm really good.
With all due respect, I tell you why it's a great honour is because when you've been watching somebody for so many years, you feel like my mother.
Oh, well, I could be, couldn't I? I mean, I remember the time, you know, way back in the 60s when they really billed me as the girl next door. And I remember when I was singing then. And then when I went to Australia in 64, I remember that it was all mods and rockers. And all on the billboards there was a mod every mother will love. Like as if to be a mod or a rocker would be like, oh, dreadful for the parents. So I've gone from being the girl next door to the sister next door to the auntie next door, and now I'm the mother next door.
I tell you what's great about you is your love for your audience. It seems to me today people don't care about the audience like you did when you were doing TV, and you still do. I saw you just the other week on the Friday Night Project, and you still have a love for it and your audience, which is so great.
I do. I was really knocked out when the boys asked me to do the Friday Night Project because, you know, I'd turned it down for the last 3 years because I thought it might be a bit risque for me. But they looked after me really well. But I actually remember one moment in the show when a girl, I don't know what it was because I was in a daze at that time, asked me where was the most exciting or place I'd had sex or made love. And I think it was a girl, her name was Louise. And I just went, oh no, because, you know, the boys can't be responsible for what the people ask, and the audience says, oh, Louise, how could you do this to me? But really, if I should have really thought quicker and should have said, oh, which I did eventually, said too many places, too numerous to mention. People never cease to amaze me. I love the public. They were the best shows that I've ever done. Because they're interesting. I mean, the members of the public are interesting. It's, you know, it's a bit like me. I'm a bit boring. If I use television today. If I've got something to plug, I won't go on telly just for the sake of going on. But my sons, all three of them, our Robert and our Ben and our Jack, thought it would be really cool for me to do the Friday Night Project. And as I say, for 3 years I've been turning it down. And then I thought, do you know what I saw? You know what cracked it for me? I saw Joanna Lumley do it, and I thought, oh, well, because before that I saw Sharon Osbourne and Ozzy, and, you know, the four-letter words were coming every which way. And I thought, I can't do that. I'm not a goody-goody, but I just don't think swearing on television is really that great, actually.
What is also interesting about you is that twinkle in your eye. I mean, you're good pals with people like Paul O'Grady. He's hardly a shrinking violet, is he?
Of course, I can swing along with the rest of them. I mean, I have a reputation anyway for being a party girl. I mean, even Paul O'Grady says I'm responsible for both of his heart attacks. He does. And I remember we went to Ronnie Wood's birthday party, and it was great. Not this year, but a couple of years back. And 3 days later, Ronnie Wood went into rehab, and Paul had a heart attack, the second one. And I was blamed for both of those incidences, you know, and I'm still rocking on. I don't know what it is. I've always had this energy. Maybe it's a nervous energy. I don't know what it is, but I do have a zest for life. And, you know, I really enjoy every day. I don't like just sitting around doing nothing.
I think the public are very shrewd. I think they can see when you're being disingenuous and when you're not really into it. And I think that's why you guys are here for so long and so successful at it. The public get to know when you're lying, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. It's just like, you know, when I watch television these days, you just kind of think, oh, that's a bit of a stunt there. you know, and I'm not a believer in stunts. I'm a believer in, you know, tell it like it is. I mean, I do, and I can still laugh at myself. I can laugh at myself when when people send surprise, surprise. And Paul's done it in his day. You know, you thought you haven't seen him for 1,002,000 years. Here he is, bloody, bloody, blah. I can laugh at that. I think it's really having a sense of humour and being able to laugh at yourself, not take yourself too seriously. And really, show business, I have to say, is the best business to be in. It really is. I mean, for being paid for something that you really absolutely adore. I mean, my husband, my late husband, Bobby, he used to say to me, never ever say you'd do it for nothing. Because, I mean, I would have done it all for nothing, because I enjoyed it so much. But he used to go mad. He said, you're being paid a fortune. Don't be saying you do it for nothing. They'll probably cut your wages next year.
I enjoyed reading your autobiography a few years ago. It was fascinating to see how you've gone from the girl that you were to the lady you are today. It's almost unbelievable, that huge change, and it is the dream, isn't it?
I'm typical of my sign. I'm a Gemini, and that means two different people or millions of facets, but, you know, whatever the way the mood takes you. And people say this, it's an amazing change. You're a party girl now, you go to a lot of theatre. At the drop of a hat, when people phone me up, and I've got friends all over the world because of the work I've done, if they phone me up, if I'm free, whether it be LA, New York, Australia, Spain, Barbados, you name it, Florida, because Dale has got a fabulous place there now. If I'm free, I will go, because I think, as the advert says, I'm worth it. You know, I really, when I did work, I worked every hour that God sent me, and I think it's my time now. It really is my time, but I have not changed. I've always been that party girl, but I also had a family, and I was also working very hard. So at the end of the day, if I would have gone out partying and everything, I would have not seen any of my children grow up. Or indeed, you know, my husband was very much a home bird too. And I loved him so much and still do. I'm madly in love with Bobby. You know, I did what he wanted me to do, because life, when you are married, is a compromise. It was amazing. You know, when I did lose Bobby and I was sitting on the settee and switched on the television, and there was something that I didn't like, and I reached for, you know, the zapper there to change, and I thought, ooh, can I turn over here? Because it was the kind of thing that one would discuss with your husband, you know, especially he loved animals. I mean, he ate it. It's very much like Paul O'Grady, actually. Hated human beings, really. Loves animals. Well, my husband was the same, and, you know, we had a great marriage. It was fantastic. But, you know, he adored me. He allowed me to do what I wanted to do on the telly and everything. The least I could do was to allow him to watch his favourite animal programme. But, I mean, I remember the weird feeling of sort of saying, oh gosh, I am in control of my remote control. That was a weird, weird feeling.
And presumably you never get over it, you just learn to deal with it.
No, you don't. You don't, even now. You don't. I mean, if I've made a mistake, and believe me, I've made plenty. Probably not in my career, but in my private life, I've made plenty. And I just know Bobby sent all these things to try me. And you know what? I think I'm really savvy now in my private life. I mean, he wasn't against it, but he would never, ever allow me to go to... or be ever seen. I just don't care anymore, you know, to go to a gay club or anything. But then what is the problem? I'm not doing any harm by doing that. And I love the attention, and I love being there.
I also think, a bit like Paul again, because you're so open about everything, they can't catch you out. You don't care being seen. It's when you care being seen that it becomes a problem, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, I'm not doing anything wrong, or what is, what am I doing? I don't roll out of these. There's no photographs of me rolling out of any club or any party, disgracing myself. And I would never do that. I just wouldn't do that. I remember our Robert, my eldest lad, and this is a weird conversation because Robert said, it was in the paper, you're in the Shadow Lounge, and blah. I said, yeah, well, what's the problem with that, I mean, I took one of the heads of LWT to the Shadow Lounge, Paul Jackson, I took there. I just don't see what the problem is. But then I sat with him like I'm sitting with you now, and I said, Robert, you can rest assured I will not bring shame to the Willis family. And I thought, this is weird. I'm his mother. He should be saying this to me. I know, but I don't think I have. I am very open. I mean, that's the only look. I found fame and fortune at the age of 19, and I have no other idea of how to live. I mean, if you do have any, skeletons in your closet, I mean, they would have come out by now. And so I'm a firm believer in just living the life that you can, and try not to, I try not to harm anybody. Probably the person that I'm harming most is myself, really.
I give you all the encouragement you need. Go and do everything you want to do. Be happy.
Look, I'm a pensioner and I'm proud. I'm going to do it.
When I said you changed, you obviously haven't changed as a person. I don't think anybody would accuse you of that. Having read the autobiography, though, when you look at your childhood to where we're sat now in your beautiful apartment here in London, it's an amazing journey, isn't it?
It is remarkable, but it was fate as well. I'm a strong believer in fate. I really am. I think my life anyway has been mapped out for me. Might sound a bit weird. I think, que sera, sera. What will be, will be. I mean, I didn't plan it. I was a pop singer and I loved it. And then it just so happened that I had a bit of a gift of the gab, like all Scousers do have. And so when I was promoting my songs in the early days, and, I was being interviewed by people like yourself, they thought, oh, she's dead easy, just ask her one question, she will go off on a roll. And then they thought, oh, she's great on television. So that I didn't plan to be a big TV star. It was the furthest thing from my brain. I've always said, if ever I do have a headstone or whatever, it would be here lies CIlla the singer rather than CIlla the TV presenter. That's what I started out, and that's what I want to die doing, really, basically. But so TV found me, and it was fate that it found me as well. That was my life's plan. And I took to TV like a duck takes to water. It was just so easy. It was so easy, because in my singing days, in the theatre, travelling, and people still do it, travel all the way up and down the country, and it's hard work. And to keep that voice, it's like a muscle, your throat, your everything. If you don't work out, you kind of lose it all. It was great training for me, the singing bit. I loved it, and it took me all over the world. And to, places, television in America, like the Ed Sullivan Show, which in one night, one live appearance, you'd be performing to 85 million people, and that was incredible. I remember the late and great Gracie Field saying to me, one night on television, you've appeared to more people than 1 year I did of theatre. And I thought, wow, that is amazing. It's quite amazing.
And it's always interesting now when you talk to the likes of Ken Dodd, who consistently, after 50 years, still sells out theatres, never gets on TV, but still does the business. Nobody knows he's even around. That's the sad reality of today. If you're not in the magazines, in the newspapers, or on the TV, people think you're dead, don't they?
gosh, Doddy, you know, an icon. And he's, as you say, still filling theatres and everything. But he really doesn't need to do television. And they are the people, which I'm not like that, you see. I am not like Ken Dodd. I mean, the way a duck takes the water to TV, gosh, when I kind of semi-retired, people said, how can you go from doing 28 shows a year, you know, on television, to sort of not? I said, well, watch me. And I did, and I love it. I don't, and if you ask if I miss it, no, I don't miss television. I absolutely don't. I do miss the theatre. I do miss the theatre. And I've been asked several years as well to go into Chicago playing the mama role, which, in fact, they asked me to do it over Christmas this year. But I thought, do I really want to go in on Boxing Day? No, I don't want to do that. I'd much rather be in Barbados. But, you know, I don't think it is. What I find sad about today is that young people, young comics, they've really got nowhere really to learn their trade apart from television. And they can't do that sort of little club where, I mean, it is totally true that the story about the working men's club is totally true about Dusty Springfield, for instance, when, you know, the guy before introducing Dusty said, you know, it's been brought to our knowledge that you've been using, some of you patrons have been using the car park as a urinal. Now this has got to stop. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Dusty Springfield. No, you I know, but those days are gone. But that's a true story. That is an absolute true story. I went to Des O'Connor's in early summer, late summer wedding, and there was a lot of comics there, and they were great. You know, people like Bobby Davro, and it's all, mind you, it's great for Bobby now being in EastEnders, but you know, I don't think you're going to get that kind of comic or family entertainer. I go back to, there's comics that are great, but I don't like the swearing. You know, call me square, but I don't think it's funny to get a tag where people laugh at the embarrassment of somebody swearing. It's not funny to me.
You really don't need to do anything, which is so great to be in a position after all these years where you can be picky and choosy. You've kind of done what you want and you can rule your own life and career.
This is true. I mean, listen, I had an incredible amount. I mean, people don't realise that I did Blind Date for 18 years. And surprise, surprise, was 20 years on television. And before that I did, I started in monochrome, black and white. And then, of course, the 60s. And here we are today. And I still love doing the odd thing. And it was great. As we talked earlier, doing the Friday Night Project, because it's a bit like riding a bike. And I was behind before I was introduced, and I thought, this is not good. I've got no nerves whatsoever. And I thought, oh no, this is not good. And because I like to have that adrenaline rush, and I like to have that nervous tension. And then I heard the warm-up guy doing his thing, and it got to me. Because what was worrying me is that I wasn't phased out by it. And then all of a sudden I was drinking my water, you know, gallons of it, because I was getting dry in the mouth. And I thought, and that made me, in a strange way, made me feel happier. But it was a bit like riding a bike, you know. Once those doors opened and I heard the audience go woof, and I thought, wow, this is it, it's fantastic. And I loved it, and I grabbed the bull by the horns, and I relished every minute of it. I adored it. Asked me if I want to do it at the level that I did do before. No, I think I've done my time with that, but I'd still like to do I still like my own TV show, but not, I mean, I don't think I could do a Noel Edmonds, for instance. I could, but it's a question of whether I wanted to. And I don't think so. I've got 2 grandchildren now, which I absolutely adore, and they're the light of my life.
Is there a drought in show business at the moment? It seems to me there aren't many Cillas, Bruces, Dales, Paul O'Grady's. Where are these big stars who will be around in 50 years coming from? Or has that finished now? Is it just a different time and a different generation?
Oh, it's totally changed, you know. I mean, and reality television changed all that, but I can't knock that because I was probably the forerunner of that in him with Blind Date and Surprise, Surprise. But most of my shows, even in the BBC shows, when I was having big stars like Cliff and the late Harry Seacombe and Bob Hope and amazing stars, I still went out on the streets and talked to the public, and that was still the biggest thing in the show. I mean, you'd have your biggest star on the CIlla show, and what they loved most was me going out interviewing in supermarkets and on the streets of London saying, do you know who I am? You know, and stuff like that. And then along came Surprise, Surprise, which was everybody always remembers the last part of we had to finish with it because we couldn't follow it, was the big reunion thing. But Surprise, Surprise, when you dig deep, we had a lot of fun in that. You know, we had a Cillagram going out and me pouncing on people and singing a song for them and dragging them in the Cillagram, and they were on TV. So Surprise, Surprise and Blind Date was probably the forerunner of reality shows. So I can't knock it. I have to say I don't really like Big Brother. I used to. I loved it, but it's getting more freaky. It really is getting more freaky.
And it makes you wonder where it will stop with all of these reality shows. Every year they have to do a bigger stunt. In X Factor this year, Sharon walks off the show, Louis walks off the show, and then they magically reappear as if nothing's ever happened. And we all know it's shtick.
Well, I did see Sharon walk off, but I thought, I could have done a better job of it. But I love Sharon. I think she's fabulous. You see, you have to like the person. I really like Sharon. I adore Simon Cowell because now he is the real deal. I mean, what you see is what you get with Simon. I think he's gorgeous. It's an either or, isn't it, with Simon? People either think he's incredibly fanciable, which I do. I'm in that camp. Or, they only think of him wearing high trousers, high waistbands. But I think he's terrific. He's incredibly clever and was incredibly great with me when Bobby died, actually, because we were negotiating and my son had to look after me, Robert. And I know nothing about business and I know nothing about negotiating. And neither did Robert, actually. He did, but he didn't know what record deals. And so I invited Simon out to lunch to meet Robert. And not only did he pay for lunch, but he really gave Robert some really great advice. And I shall be ever grateful to Simon for that. He's the most generous person and incredibly talented, both on and off the screen. I
want to talk about the records for a moment because you said right at the beginning that they're the thing you want to be remembered for. For most people, probably under 35, they'll only remember you for Blind Date, which was so huge. What are you going to do to bring back your music to young people? I mean, the people on the Friday Night Project probably weren't even aware that you were a megastar with your music. Are we ever going to see you touring live again with the music show?
Oh, God forbid. I mean, it's hard work. It really is hard work, as I said earlier, But I loved it then. I was really hungry. I'm not that hungry now. I mean, the only time I probably would do something like that, a concert, would be in London, maybe the Royal Albert Hall, and it would have to be for charity. I most certainly wouldn't perform, or indeed go on the road again for financial gains. I wouldn't do that. And I've guested on Sir Cliff's tour and indeed made a DVD with him, and I enjoyed that immensely. It was great. I remember when I went, because I'm a big fan of Cliff's anyway, and he was on the Albert Hall, and he said, "Do you fancy coming up?" Because he'd done a duet with me on Imagine, and he did the most amazing vocals on it. He really made... I've never heard Imagine since John Lennon, of course, who could top John Lennon, but I've never heard anybody sing Imagine, the two of us together. It was so unique. And I said, "Oh, I'll think about it." I said, "Look, can I come down in the interval and tell you yay or nay?" And he was great. He said, "Yeah, fine." I turned up for rehearsals. We did the rehearsal, and I loved it. I said, "Look, can I not come out dry? Can I sort of like do my own thing for a little bit and then do the duet? Because I'm a bit rusty, that's all." He said, "Yeah, what do you want to do?" And I went really right back to my roots, and I thought, I'll do Peggy Lee's Fever, because that was my audition number I did in the Cavern with Jerry and the Pacemakers for Brian Epstein. And I thought, I'll do that. I can play around with that. And it's easy. So I followed him singing. Oh, I went first start. I was going down the interval. I was terrified. I was nervous. And I said, "I'm going down to tell him I can't do this. I cannot do this." And I went down, then all of a sudden this calm came over me. And I knew what was really making me nervous. I wasn't used to sitting in a theatre before I was going on. You know, I had to be backstage. And all of a sudden they gave me my own dressing room, and I thought, wow, I'm back home. This is where I belong. I'm at home. I'm backstage. And I said, "What do I follow? Get me on there. What do I follow?" And he said, "I'm going to do Devil Woman." I said, "Okay." So there I was in my own dressing room, having a glass of champagne. And I heard him do Devil Woman, so I went to stand by. And his introduction to me, more or less, it was more than this, but the latter part was, "Well, from one devil woman to another, here she is, CIlla Black." And I walked on, and I just stood there, and the whole audience stood up, and I thought, wow, this, and I couldn't wait to get to the microphone. But the old talent in me stood back, and he's looking at me because he's got his back to the audience. Come on. And I thought, no, I'm going to savour this moment forever. Anyway, I walked down, he left the stage, and, well, I nearly cost him £5,000 in overtime that night, because I was on there 20 minutes. It took 20 minutes. I had a captivated audience, and I was chatting and talking to the audience and then singing. And he actually went in when he'd had a cup of tea, you know, dried off a little bit, and said, "How's she doing?" And his PA said, "She hasn't even started the song yet." But I nearly cost him, my claim to fame is I nearly cost him £5,000 in overtime. But it was the best. It was the best feeling ever. And that's what I know I'm most comfortable at, in the theatre, on stage, with a live audience, a paying audience, no less.
I think for anybody who's done public speaking or stood in the wings of a theatre ready to go on, that feeling that you get knowing that they're waiting for you, like dogs growling at you, waiting to see whether you can do what they think you can do. Your fans would love to see you do CIlla the concert. Could you not do that for them?
Oh, you're making me feel guilty now, aren't you? I would. I've been asked. I probably will. There are times when I think I wish I was more like Shirley Bassey, which is... It's her life. I have to stress again, it's show business. I remember my husband saying, "You don't work for the business, you make the business work for you." And you've got to remember, I'm very much a family person. And I do have two beautiful grandchildren who I want to spend every hour that God sends me to be with Max and Lana. I'm in a different era now, and I would do that charity concert, but it means me having to work. I mean, I don't even sing in the shower now, never mind, you know. I'd never play my own records. I never ever do that. I'd be embarrassed. I mean, I did an advert for LV, and every time it comes on, an insurance advert, I have to switch over. I can't bear to watch myself on television or even listen to myself. But I love entertaining the public. I love that. And I promise you, I will do a concert. I've got to now, haven't I?
We have, really, for the sake of your eulogy and for your fans. I mean, you can't have the singer if you're not singing.
Oh, well, all right. But, I mean, Alfie is bloody hard to do these days. I mean, I could never. I'll have to take it down a few notches. I couldn't reach that high note.
I'm sure they'll still love you nevertheless. Let's talk in our very final moments about the greatest thing that's ever happened to you in show business, aside from the family, which is obviously your priority and your great love. What was the moment in show business when you went, this is it, this is the moment?
It wasn't any of the number ones or any of the big hits. When I really thought that I had arrived is when I was invited to do my very first Royal Command performance. That was in '64. And I remember it was the doorman, and he was always right. He said, "You're going to be doing the Royal Command this year." And I said, "Oh, don't be silly. I've only been in show business 9 months." You know, he said, "No, I've tipped you. You're going to be on the Royal Command." And lo and behold, he was right. He was absolutely right. Because I am a royalist anyway. Always was. My family were. And I remember when at about 9, maybe I was 11, the Queen came to Liverpool. And I swore to God that it was me she was waving at. Me. She waved at me. And all the crowds coming down Scotty Road, I was convinced it was me. And to actually meet the Queen was absolutely incredible. And to perform for the Queen. And in those days, in the early 60s, you had to wear gloves. And it was terribly grand. And she wore gloves as well. I mean, you never pressed the flesh. I was wearing shocking pink and gloves right up to my elbows, and it was absolutely fascinating. And I was appearing at the Palladium at the time with Frankie Vaughan and Tommy Cooper, great bill. And, you know, my photograph was like 9 feet tall outside. And I remember the first question she asked me, "What are you doing at the moment?" I thought, is she blind? Couldn't she see the pictures outside? You know, the billboards, you know, starring CIlla Black. And I just went, I never ever forget that, though. What am I doing at the minute? Well, apart from performing here, I couldn't believe that. But that was my proudest moment, I guess. Of course, I've met her several times since then. All of them, actually.
And of course, recently at the Royal Variety, you were on with Paul in the most fabulous outfit. That was something to behold and remember, wasn't it?
Oh, that was great. That was a little bit of history. I don't think we could ever top that. Because I think the public generally didn't believe that I could do that kind of thing. Or they weren't expecting it. That was really a naughty surprise. And it was a terribly naughty. It'd gone wrong all day. I mean, the outfit, you know, the outfit that lit up. And I was working that myself. I had to do that myself. It wasn't someone off.
For those who didn't see it, it lit up in strategic places.
It did, yes. Well, I was playing a part from Gypsy, Miss Electra from Gypsy. And it was called You Gotta Get a Gimmick. And, you know, you got to get a gimmick with a oomph and a oomph and a oomph, oomph, oomph. And 3 different phases. My boobs lit up. And then my crotch lit up. And then I bent over and my bum lit up. Which was very funny. It was straight from the musical Gypsy. So I was playing a part. That wasn't CIlla. But then I remember the producer and director of the show was Jeff Thacker. And I was being dressed, you know, in the leotard and everything. And I kept saying, "Oh, lower down on the bum and lower down on the thighs." And all the time he was saying to Stephen Adnett, "Higher on the thighs and cut higher on the thighs and cut higher on the bum line. And so on the day it arrived with all the pack in there, the radio pack, which was quite heavy actually. It was all, the outfit was fabulous, but it never worked once. The lights never came on at all. And I thought, well, I can do it without lights. I don't have to light up. I can still do the number. So there was a guy with all the wires going up on the leotard, an hour at 7:30 in the evening, kneeling on the floor in my dressing room, soldering these wires in the leotard. And I remember Jeff and my son Robert standing in the wings when the first lights went on. Oh, God, it's working. Because they hadn't worked all the way through, and of course it brought the house down.
And that's the glamour of show business, isn't it?
Oh, well, that is, as they say, that's show business, folks.
My final question to you is, I can't understand how people make show business so difficult. You were, without question, in the 90s, the biggest star on TV, certainly at ITV. Before that, you were a star in your own right for many, many reasons, and you still are today. How do you manage to deal with it and not be into the drugs and not be completely bonkers and not be going into rehab when so many seem to find what is the greatest privilege and most fun job in the world the most difficult thing to do?
It's a different time we're living in altogether. But I always say, if you don't want it, don't do it. Look, if you don't want the press, the media is so intrusive today. The media have always been great with me, by the way. But I always say, if you don't want it, don't go there. Don't really go there. Go behind closed doors, have private parties, and the drug thing, that's what really bothers me. But the drugs were always there. But the thing is, even in the early days, well, as you know, the 60s, make love, not war, and all the rest of it. But I couldn't do any of that because, you know why? Ego. They were all groups, remember. I was a single artist. So if someone was out of it on stage in a band, someone else would cover for them. I had no cover at all, but myself. So I had a responsibility, and my ego was far too large to get involved. Plus the fact I was frightened. I was terrified of drugs. I really was. I remember being at a party and everybody was there. I can say it now. The Beatles, the Moody Blues, blah, 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 you name it, all these bands were there. And this spliff was being handed round on a pin. And I thought, it's been in everybody else's mouth. It ain't going in mine. It has one mouth. It ain't going in. I didn't smoke anyway. So that was a blessing, really. But I don't know. I think I turned on once it was once. I didn't like it. It didn't do anything to me, and it's bad for the throat and probably bad for your health anyway. So, I tried to be a naughty girl, but it didn't work for me. But today, I feel sorry for, your Amy Winehouses, because I think she's such an incredible talent, really. And it's just so hard to see her destroy herself the way she has been. It comes to something when she was nicked in Norway and her family and friends said, oh, how relieved they were, that was just cannabis. I would totally be horrified by that. But I hope she comes through it, because it'd be a sheer waste of talent.
And it's so sad that they haven't got that support network around them who can step in and say, you're going too far, enough's enough, because I presume in your day there was enough people around you, including Bobby, who would have given you a slap if you'd have gone too far.
The thing is, you can only get help if people come to you for help. No point. Look, when a smoker, even cigarettes, nobody can give up smoking for you. You have to do it for yourself, and you've got to want to do it. At the minute, a lot of young people don't want to do it. So they can, to help yourself, you've got to ask for help for other people.
CIlla, you're so loved. Please do the live tour. Thank you so much for allowing me into your home to do this exclusive hour special. We're really, really grateful, and all the years of asking us paid off. Thank you for your time. Good luck in the future, and enjoy yourself in Barbados as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. It's a pleasure. And I'll invite you to the next karaoke party I have.